Welcome to Biome Bound. This is my first task that I've completed, and I hope you guys enjoy watching the process and hearing me half asleep explaining what's going on. You're gonna be able to see me in just a second. I have to build in this red square, and there I am right there. On Biome Bound, we have to do tasks, and this was my first task. I was allowed to get help from other people, and I had to build a cinnabar house at spawn. That's why the little red square is there, and I have to be in the little red square and build there. That is my dedicated space, and that is the area I am limited to, is the little red square. And I have to make it about 50% or more of cinnabar, or variations of cinnabar, which is like the chiseled cinnabar and the brick cinnabar and all of that, and like the regular cinnabar, the raw one, the slabs, the stairs, all of the fun things. As you can see, I was hanging out with a bunch of my friends while I was doing this, so we get a little bit distracted, but it was really fun, and I like having people to yap with as I do my tasks and stuff, and it kind of helps me stay on track, even if I'm not 100% on task, you know? Okay, so first I had to figure out what I was doing, and so I decided to flatten the entire area, so that way I had a flat area to start building on. And to make my flat area, I decided I was going to break all the grass by hand, because I didn't have a shovel. And so I did that, most of the way anyways. And flattening an area without having a shovel? Yeah. I did a chunk of this by hand and then realized it would be faster if I got a shovel. And so I asked some people if they had a shovel. Okay, now everything's flat. First things first, I need to build a giant rectangle. So I'm using a bunch of different cinnabar variations along with mangrove to build the base, I guess is the right term, like the walls of the building. And then pale oak is pretty much like an accent color to make it look not as red. Okay, a full 30-minute yap session just happened, but I cut that all out because we were literally talking about the most randomest of things. And right about here was when I started questioning all of my life decisions and saying, why was I building a fucking rectangle? And everybody else was agreeing with me the rectangle looked dumb. And so the executive decision was made to remove the rectangle because the rectangle looked stupid. And so I was gonna go fix the shape of my building. So I decided to fix the rectangle. I was going to actually bring in the walls on the top part, just to give it a little bit of a tiered look. When things get more narrow at the top, it looks better as a build. For some builds. Some builds still look really, really cool when they don't get more narrow at the top. However, for this one, I decided it needed to be narrow at the top. Since this was a house, I had a requirement to have a door and a couple of other things that I'll get into later, but this is me working on the door. I'm actually quite proud of this door design. I think it looks really cool. And at this point, you guys can probably tell that Dakota and Kat were mostly moral support. They also helped me get a lot of blocks. I do owe them for the blocks. That was really helpful. and they were yapping with me the whole time, so that was also quite nice. But you can see Dakota's just kind of mildly doing parkour as I'm building. I'm also using trapdoors to texture the build. I actually recently started doing that, and it looks really cool in my opinion. It adds a little bit of depth variation on the builds, and also it gives like just kind of like a variation of texture. I don't know how else to say it. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 thing. Sometimes, depending on the trapdoor you use, you can actually see the block underneath, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, I really enjoy using the trapdoor texturing. I want to use it more. Alright, now that I've got the bottom textured, I'm going to start texturing the top using the really cool trapdoor method. I really like using the trapdoors. And we're all gonna say thank you to Dakota and Kat for basically being my bodyguards while I was building. I didn't realize there was this many mobs that showed up. And I'm adding little fences up at the top to kind of give another tier to it. I think it's really cool. Using the white trapdoors looked really fun. It gave a little bit of difference from all of the red. It broke it up. Alright, and now we're gonna start the inside. So I have to remove the dirt layer first so I can actually get the floor at floor level. Now, I had seen really cool designs with floors and using stairs as your floor, so you can like put a little cool design and like waterlog it. That was not happening. I struggled so much. You guys are gonna be able to see right after this clip how long it actually took me to do this. Because I kid you not, it took forever. I wanted to do a spiral, and then I couldn't do that, so I was gonna do a bullseye. And then I couldn't do that, so I did 2 circles, or I guess 2 squares, and then the letter C, and I just decided the C was for cinnabar. Yeah, that C wasn't supposed to be there. I decided that it was just gonna be there anyways because I wasn't dealing with the stairs anymore. Dakota can attest, I was actually losing my mind while I was trying to do this. You can see that they're like connecting to each other, and that's not what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to be disconnected from each other, and I had to like go in and remove everything, and this is right when I realized the spiral wasn't working. So then we're gonna continue, and we're gonna go do the 2 circles, and that like worked fine, and then you get this one connecting it, so. And then it took me like 4 tries to get this to work. And like all of my corners were being weird. The corners would connect to the other corners, and I didn't want that. It happens again, and it just repeatedly, to the point where I was not doing it anymore. Props to whoever can do the really fun designs. I think I won't do this again. And this is when I was like trying to get the circle on the center. It was a time, alright. This one took me like 4 different tries. More than 4. It took me more than 4. And then I just like was done, so I just decided to be done with it. And the final time was about 6 minutes. Alright, now we're working on the inside. I wanted to try doing like, kind of like, you know those like medieval torch holders? That's what I wanted to do with the fence posts, but I didn't want them lower than 3 blocks up. And so I put those on the third block up, and then I started working on the ceiling, and I needed a way to get up and down, obviously, because it was a 2-tiered house. So I left that like block out and used the ladders to get up and down. And then I decided I didn't like that ceiling. No thank you. And I needed to put actually a second entrance over on the side closest to Cam's build, because somebody else was building a bridge in between the sulfur house and the cinnabar house. So that's where I'm putting the entrance, where the ladders are as well. And now we're gonna go look upstairs. I removed the fence posts because I didn't like how they looked, and now we're going to work on the second floor. Now, to be a Minecraft house, I had a couple of requirements. I needed to have a bed, a furnace, a crafting table, and a chest. And as you can see, none of those have been put down yet. But this top floor is where all that's going to go. But I decided to procrastinate doing that to work on the second entrance. I tried getting it to match with the front door as much as I could, and to still keep the vibe. We're also about to see me realize that you can't place doors and then break the block underneath. And that's when I also decided that this wouldn't be a door, this would just be a giant open window, essentially. So you could just walk in, and there's nothing stopping you. And then I fell, so I had to go up the ladder. And I didn't like where the frog light was, so I was moving it up a little bit so that way the lighting was a little bit higher into the roof rather than like on the wall. And you know how I mentioned that I needed specific things for it to be a house? We're actually going to work on that now. We're rotating the camera so that way we can see me work on it and not be like in the middle of all of the things being put down. And I wanted to make the floor out of slabs, except I made the roof out of slabs, and so that means I can't put the white oak slabs on top of the cinnabar slabs, which is a little annoying. And since I made the roof out of slabs, that also means that anything else I placed would be floating, and so I placed down more cinnabar slabs just so that way things weren't floating off of the floor. I had to go back to get a red bed because obviously it needed to match, and I made a little nightstand out of the mangrove fence post and the white trapdoor. And then there is our crafting table, our furnace, and then I had to make the chest still, and I will place it right now-ish. Now. Nope. Now. Nope. A barrel and then the chest. And then Dakota came to do some more parkour and be a little bit more moral support. And I tried doing a couple other things, but I didn't like how they looked. And then in a couple of seconds, we will have our shots of the outside, inside, and both of the buildings, and I hope you guys enjoyed. We're gonna slowly back away. We're gonna get the entire front in there, and you can see the bridge as well. You can see there's a couple of torches around the top just to keep mobs off of it, and then we're gonna slowly go to the left, and you guys can see all of the trapdoor stuff. And then we can go around towards the back, and then up and over the bridge a little bit. And then here is that other side. And then we're gonna get a really cool shot of day to night, just so you can see what it looks like at night as well when it's all lit up. And then we are going to get our interior shot, so we're going to go through the door. I know, crazy. Then you're going to see the torches are on little shelves because I didn't like how using the fence post looked. So I used slabs to make little shelves. And then we're going to go up the ladder. You're going to be able to see out to the Cinnabar building, and we're going to turn around, and then here is the little room, bedroom, whatever you want to call it for the house. And then you can see the frog light is up there, and then we're going to go ahead and head out towards the bridge. And then once we get about halfway across the bridge, we're going to turn around. And we're going to see the little entrance from the bridge. And then here is a really cool shot of both of the buildings and the bridge through a day-night cycle, so you can see it all lit up at night and what it looks like during the day. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing me build the little building and listening to me ramble about why I did what I did.